Good morning, everybody. Laurel here, Minnesota, now zone 5A instead of 4B, although I kind of knew we were borderline before the USDA zone map changes. And of course the whole point is that's the average for the last 10 years. So anyways, just want to do a quick fall garden tour. It's mid-November. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So pretty busy everywhere. People are out doing their shopping, running around town. This barberry colored up, so got some of its fall color here before the leaves drop. Really pretty. And we even have a patch of sunlight back here. I didn't realize it got direct sun in the morning. So, learn something every day. Cabbages still good. Some of them got a little frostbite. There are a couple that I can harvest. They have small heads, but I can eat a few of them still. This one's really pretty. I love that pink in the center there. Got foxgloves, the overdam grass, and then the dogwood now has dropped its leaves, so it has its pretty red stems for the winter. The honeysuckle looks really pretty right now, those gold leaves. The birds, especially in the winter, love using that because we've got bird feeders on the... Oh, there's the sun. Hello. Bird feeders on the side of the garage. And so they can kind of perch on those stems and fly back and forth to the bird feeders. I also leave the liatris seed heads up. You can kind of see them down here because the birds like to eat those too. So, and the foxgloves, I leave those seed heads up so they can self-seed, ideally. Hopefully they can establish themselves. Heucheras down here, semi-evergreen. I'm not going to clean up the leaves. I just leave them as mulch in the garden bed. They kind of protect the plants over winter, and then I can just mulch over them. Or if there are too many in the spring, then I can clean them up, but they won't hurt anything. You can see we still have some frost on the ground this morning in the shady areas. Even a little bit of frost here on this, planted this campanula ground cover. And then I planted a little bee balm over there, but it was already dormant. So irises, I think I might cut those back. I haven't before, and I know Siberian iris aren't as prone to borers, but I had some variegated irises in the back that I lost because they got borers. And what iris borers do is they lay their eggs, the moths, their moth larvae. Sorry, got the mic a little twisted there. They're moth larvae, and they lay their eggs on the iris leaves in the fall. And I forget if it's in the spring they hatch. I think they hatch in the spring, and then the larvae crawl down the leaves and into the crown of the plant, and then they feed on the rhizome. So they bore holes into the rhizome, which in itself doesn't necessarily kill the rhizome, but it opens it up to bacterial infection, and that's what happened with my other iris. They got a type of bacteria and just rotted away. I tried to save them. You can dig them up and try and cut away the bad parts, but they didn't. I replanted, but they didn't survive the winter. So the carex is evergreen. That's ice ballet carex. 3 of them there, really pretty. So is the hellebore. And that's early spring color too. That blooms early on. I did clean up the hosta leaves from back there. And I leave up the blooms from the hydrangeas. Got the mum is pretty much done. Even some of this verbena is still hanging on. That's annual though, so that will die back. Otherwise everything's pretty much going dormant here. Same thing up in this garden. A lot of sedum. I leave the seed heads because I want to create places for good insects, native insects to overwinter, and they just have some interest. Although this area gets pretty covered by snow because we blow it off the sidewalk and off the garage into this lawn, and you can see it's not a very big space, and off of the sidewalk too. So this front yard is pretty much completely covered with snow in the wintertime. And we'll walk around the back here. Got the pretty tree now, has lost its leaves for winter, but it's a really nice structure. You can really see the form of the trunk. All right, quick walk around the backyard. A couple changes back here in the last week. Not too much. Just kind of been cleaning stuff out. We do have the mums over here in bloom. The red ones opened up. There's burgundy, orange, and pink in that one. They were mystery, and this is something I noticed the other day. I cut this back so I could see it. A viola self-seeded in this pot, so I got a bonus little viola bloom. These are 2 oregano. This one is like a Italian oregano for cooking, and this one is ornamental oregano. And the bracts look really pretty. They're not hardy. Well, they're not supposed to be hardy outside, but I overwinter them in the porch, and they come back every year. The ivy has on its fall color. Probably this week put that in on the porch. I cleaned out the big pot. I had that pennisetum that was dead. It doesn't survive frost here in this big concrete pot. You can see its twin over there, but man, I always forget how intense grass roots are to clean out. They have that pot was just all roots. And I usually put an upside down, even just a small plant can. I had a little one, like maybe this size in the bottom, upside down. I guess it saves a little bit of soil volume, but really it makes it easier to clean out the roots because it kind of creates a little empty space or vacant space, a gap in the soil, so it's easier to cut into and dig out the roots when there's sort of a void in there. That helps a lot. But, oh man, cleaning out grass roots. Luckily the soil was dry. That also helps. It helps if you let the soil completely dry out. Much easier to clean. I once had an altercation with a lemongrass that I had to go inside and lay down for a while. It almost beat me because the roots were so crazy. But I won in the end. So another look at the honeysuckle with its gold leaves. And then you can see once it drops all its leaves, it's just this big twisty stem that looks kind of neat. Kind of hidden garden-esque. And can't really see the color in this bright sun, but the 9-bark does have some of its fall color, along with the crispy leaves that got snow or frostbitten. So, hostas are all done for, which is fine. I usually wait until the leaves are easy to pull out before I clean up the hostas. Oh, sorry if this thing is there we go. Hold it steady. Need to get a new holder that doesn't jostle so much. Kind of same thing over here. The red-berried elderberry now has lost pretty much all of its leaves. I cut that back in the spring. You can see it setting its buds already for next year. Big, huge buds. That's one of the first things to leaf out and bloom in the spring. Pretty white blooms, and it has bright red berries after the blooms are gone. The birds eat those. I usually, after the berries are done, I give it a hard cut back, unless there are always some dead branches that I cut back too early on. Oh yeah, I forgot I just chucked the rest of it up there against the fence, just because. Cleaned up some of the hosta leaves over here. Again, the lungwort. You can see the leaves deteriorate. It does keep some of its leaves though. And that blooms early in the spring. Geraniums have some pretty colors on them for fall. Heuchera always looks pretty. Planted, I think I said that before, I planted a third forever purple. This area is a little tricky with plant placement because there are a lot of roots from the spruce trees, so I plan something out and then I always have to shift it a little bit. The Conocloa grass, it still has some movement in the wind. I love that. This verbena is still going, not blooming, but still alive. We've got this little patch of 3 barberries here. Has some pretty gold color now. Oranges and golds. And you can see the red, maybe you can see the red berries in there too. And the red stems of that dogwood look nice. I think I'm going to leave this grass, that support up for the winter. I don't know, it probably won't hurt anything. And this arborvitae, I'm debating if I should tie it together. It always gets really weighed down when we get heavy snowfalls, and I have to come out here with a broom and knock all the snow off of it so that it pops back upright again. Kind of a pain. I don't know if tying the branches would help or if the whole thing would just bend over in one piece. Love the alliums. This is why I leave these seed heads up. They just look so pretty. Who wants bare dirt when you can have all these cool seed heads sticking up? This is a nepeta. I don't remember the variety of it. Maybe, I think it's the one that's like Persian blue or something, like purr, like cat purr. And of course my favorite, the drops of Jupiter ornamental oregano. Here you can see the trio. So low maintenance. I mean, almost no maintenance. It's a great, great plant. Highly recommend. And I love the chartreuse color of the leaves. And then it has purple blooms in the summer. These blooms look especially pretty this year, even dried out. I think this is their 3rd full season for a full year in the ground, and they really did well. These are firelight hydrangeas. And there's a little lime hydrangea over here, another lungwort. Got a bunch of heucherella, some brennera, lots of astilbe in this area. This Jacob's Ladder. I want to say that one's called Stairway to Heaven, although I don't recall. That's getting some gold, pretty gold color on it. And this viburnum is coloring up a little bit more now. Kind of orangey tint, orangey yellow, bronzy. That one branch back there, I wonder if that one's damaged or what. A lot of times if plants color differently, it means there's some damage to them. Sage leaf willow, I will see how that does next year, but I will give that a rejuvenation prune in the spring. It struggled because it likes a lot of moisture. And this area is very much clay soil. This probably has the most clay soil of anywhere in my garden. I have clay everywhere, but this is pretty heavy clay. So when we get moisture, it really retains it well. But we've had 3 years of extreme drought, like record drought. And so this poor thing has just not been very happy. So I think next year we'll decide its fate, if it stays there, or if I move it and replace it with something else. I've got that is limelight, regular old limelight hydrangea. And then I've got some more Siberian iris back there. Another nepeta. This one is a Walker's Low. Not because it's low, but apparently it was found in, a lot of plants are named after the person who discovered the species growing or whatever. So it was a farmer named Walker, and he found it in its low field. At least that's what I've read online. It is actually a really large nepeta. Still have some sage and a little rosemary. I did freeze some of that. What else? Strawberries. Soil's going to start to freeze now. I'm going to need to pull up those carrots. We've had some really warm weather, like in the 60s this week. So gomphrena dries really well. Seed heads really dry quite well. And you can see I made myself a little gomphrena bouquet here in the corner of my new raised bed, which, I am enjoying it. I think the ones that are drooping were in water before I had them in a vase, and I pulled them out, so they probably won't dry as well as they did. I just pulled most of them off of the plants that were dead from frost, and the flowers are dead. I mean, the stems are dead. They've all been killed back by the cold, but they still keep their color. Really pretty. I'm debating whether I will bring this. Maybe I'll put it on the porch. This is a type of, what you call it? Dusty Miller. New Look is the name of it. I don't know if it'll be hardy out here, but I also just don't want the plant to burst from the cold, so I may go ahead and bring it inside. The aster done blooming. This thing just gets enormous. And it was kind of, I had some things obstructing it from getting to its full size, but this is only its second full growing season, and it was already huge. So, got this pretty grass over here. It's a nice view, isn't it? Pretty. The sun coming in on that limelight hydrangea and the grass. That is a panicum called, not Cheyenne, Shenandoah. Shenandoah panicum. There we go. I have two of them. The bigger one is more mature. It's been in the ground for longer. I do have some allium bulbs kind of sprinkled in along here on the back. These are zinnias, which I kind of plant amongst the allium. So in the spring, I have some bulbs coming up. And then this area, I like to just leave clear for annuals, dahlias, zinnias, that kind of stuff. There's a coreopsis over there. Daylilies. I've got 3 of them down there. I'm not a big fan of daylily foliage, but these are actually pretty nice. And the blooms on those are stunning. They're so prolific. They bloom really prolifically. And they get tall too. And the blooms kind of face upright. The variety is called South Seas. And they're this pretty kind of tropical corally color. Got some fall color on this Anna's Magic Ball Arbovita. Kind of getting bronzy. I have bachelor's buttons in here, and that's what these little seedlings are, and those will come back in the spring. They self-seed, but not invasively, I guess. They're not invasive. You can see they kind of grew. There's some of the blue. I don't know if you can see those blue flowers back there. A tangled mess. That's where they seeded themselves the year before. Oh, I see another seedling down there. I think things are just heavily planted in here. So they come up. Not all of the seeds are able to germinate. And so far where they have come up, I've been able to let them go because they have not been invasive. So I do like to plant things, as you can see, very close together. I like a really full garden. This area is kind of wild because I'm just kind of trying new things. And I'm sort of over time trying to organize it a little bit more. I think what works, if you like that cottage garden style, a really full garden, and you like to try a lot of different plants, I think that's fine. I think it works better if you can at least punctuate with a few bunches of things. Like over here, I have a little grouping of allium, the grouping of oregano, and even up front I have a couple groupings, but then a whole lot of different plants in between. That grouping of barberries, and a grouping of echinacea there. So I think that as long as it's punctuated with some repetition, and groupings of things, then it doesn't look too crazy and out of control. That's what I'm working on over here. I have a trio of, these are dwarf goldenrod. I've got a couple more echinacea planted, and you don't have to do 3s and 5s or evens and odd numbers. When you plant things really full, you can't really tell whether you have 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. I buy 1 plant or 2 plants all the time. I group 2 things together. I group 4 things together. Case in point, go walk back over here again. These allium, I have 4 plants in here. And when they're all full and in full bloom, you can't tell that it's an even number versus an odd number. It's no less pleasing to the eye. I plant what I have room for. Sometimes structural 3s look good if you're doing something structural, like a triangle. If you put a couple triangles in your garden where things are planted in a triangle shape. 3 things. I've done that up front as well. That helps. It almost gives the eye a rest from sort of the mayhem of the rest of the garden and creates a little bit of structure. Or in a border, like these 3, I put 3 in a row, sort of along a walking way. But even I have, like heucherella over here, I have 4 of this kind of heucherella planted, this purple plum cascade heucherella. And I originally had 3, and I kind of split them up between different plants, but you see that same repetition over here. And it sort of visually organizes the space a little bit. So that's what I strive for, or what I shoot to achieve when I'm planting my garden and planning my space. And I do a lot of planning on the fly because I buy a lot of clearance plants, so you never really know what you're going to be able to get your hands on. And if you're lucky, sometimes, like I got 4 of these little Nepeta here in a clump, but they're just going to look like a clump of Nepeta when they're mature and fleshed out and in full bloom in the summer. You're not going to be able to tell there are 4. It's just going to look like a clump. Or here, like I have these 3, this little row of heucherella. That kind of makes the space look organized, and then the rest of it you can kind of go a little more wild and crazy. And I'm definitely a plant collector. I want to try growing every single plant that I learn about. I think a lot of us are like that. Or even like a hosta garden, if it's the same type of plant and there are lots of varieties of it, it still looks organized. I don't like the look of hosta gardens where it's a billion of the same exact style of hosta. I mean, I think if you have a few of them clumped together that are the same or in a row or as a border, that's one thing, but when you're planting a big space like this and you have all the same hosta, there's no visual interest to it. It's all the same. So, but it does, when you have lots of different kinds of hosta and you have a good mix of like variegated blue, green, chartreuse, solid leaves, as long as you have some solid leaves to give a visual break to the eye, it still looks organized and intentional. I'm trying to do that back here. I've got a little trio of 3 different kinds of Jacob's ladder. I want to do a little collection. I just love the structure, the form of those plants. So, my 2 cents, I guess. You're welcome if anybody was interested. I'm not a professional, but that's what works for me. I know a lot of people like very structured or very wild. Also, do what makes you happy. It's your garden. You're the one doing the work. You're the one enjoying it every day. That's my main principle. So I'm going to do whatever suits me because it's my space. And I'm the one with the sore back at the end of the day from doing all the work. So anyway, I guess on that note, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate that. And please subscribe.